This is another episode of the Renegade Podcast. And my next guest that I'm going to interview, his name is StopCulture. He is a YouTuber who does movie, video essays, talks about TV, art, music, all the shebang. He talks about all of that and more. He's been one of my favorite YouTubers the last year or so. Came across his Dune Messiah video, and that video was amazing. And the best part about it is that it's only 7 minutes. So he didn't ramble on. He didn't use other things. He just got straight to the point and just spilled some knowledge to the audience, which I really appreciated. And one of the big lessons I've learned over the last couple months with this channel is that more people have said yes than I expected, but the ones that I wanted didn't respond, which is fine. You know, like, it takes time building an audience, building all that takes time. And it's an honor for me to even get these interviews. I mean, the Solar Sands one was my favorite one, period. And I'm trying to edit it, and I'm like, you know what, let me just leave it as is. I talked to him about it, and he's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. We had a little bit of a conversation afterwards online, and that's going to be uploaded very soon. And but this one is the one that I'm excited about for a little while. And the funny thing is that the power of just asking. You know, it's funny because I feel like we sort of get caught up with this sort of status. So here he is. So stay tuned for this one. This one about to be a banger. So here we go.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, bro, how you doing, man?
I'm just, I'm good. Hold on, let me get my headphones in so there's no echo.
Hey, bro.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you real good, man.
Cool. How you doing, bro?
Doing pretty good. What you been doing recently? Are you been making new videos or anything like that?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I always try to stay on a pretty consistent upload schedule.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's hard to, because I'm not a full-time YouTuber yet. That is the goal, though. You know? I'm trying to make, a video every 10 days. You know, it was like at the beginning of 2025, I was like, I got a couple goals for this year. I'm going to try to make at least a video every 10 to 14 days. And then by the end of the year, hopefully have like 25 to 50K subs. Like that's my dream goal.
Yeah.
And then to be on my way to, being a full-time YouTuber. That's kind of the dream at this point.
That's a good attitude to have. So when you say you're a part-time YouTuber, like, does that mean you have a job on the side, or is this just you just started out?
I mean, I have a full-time job at this point. One that I really don't like. I mean, throughout my life, I've been like always looking for a way to really do something that I love and that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
But as you probably know, and anyone who tries to do anything creative knows it's really difficult to actually achieve that.
Yeah.
Most people only end up having to put their hobbies and passions on the side. But with YouTube, it's like it's a scalable business model that allows you to really, if you do well on it, you can make it your full-time job, which is cool because it's like, you can make things that you really care about, you're passionate about, and have people watch them. And it's a really cool thing. So I've been doing it seriously for like about a year and a half ish now.
Yeah.
And I just continue to keep on moving.
Yeah, that's very interesting because I mean, if anyone checks your channel out, like, you already have like 5,000-6,000 like subscribers. I mean, there's a guy I know, forgot his name, but the guy I know that does his own sort of best shots type of thing, and he only has like 500, but he's been doing it for like 2 years. I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? It's kind of ranges things can be.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like you can be doing it for a couple years and only have a couple hundred, but then randomly you just that next month you can have 8,000.
Yeah,
it's like YouTube is so unpredictable like that, and some people grow faster. Some people have grown way faster than I have. Like sometimes I'm on the YouTuber subreddit and they're like, I've been doing YouTube for 2 weeks and I have 50,000 subscribers. Damn. I gotta know what these people are doing because it's tough, man. Like you never really know what's gonna be a good idea. Like you can think you have a really good idea that people are gonna really like, and you put a lot of effort into trying to make the thumbnail work and the video work, but it ends up flopping.
Yeah,
and then sometimes things that you don't expect to do well are just end up doing really great. And, it's totally random. It feels like it
is. You're right. I mean, the way that the algorithm works is like it's kind of like you're kind of playing like a game of cat and mouse. It's like you can have something that's like a masterpiece, you upload it, and then I don't know, it doesn't do well, and then 3-4 years later, you wake up at over 1 million because something happened that correlated to that thing you just created all that time ago, right? I mean, I've seen it all the time. Right?
Yeah, no, I mean that something like that actually happened to me because, like I've had my channel since 2022. At first, I was just uploading like meme videos and stuff like that. I was doing like when the AI voice stuff got like 11 Labs when that started coming out.
Yeah,
I would write scripts between like Joe Rogan and Darth Vader and shit. One of those videos ended up doing really well.
Okay.
But after that trend kind of has, you still see some of those videos sometimes, but it's not as popular as it was in 2023.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't really know what to do with the channel now, and then I was kind of dormant for a while.
Yeah.
And then I was writing for this online publication.
Yeah.
Doing media critiques and just like general think pieces on media and stuff like that. So I was like, this company isn't really paying me that much. Maybe I could try to put some of my video essays, turn these articles into video essays, basically. And one of them ended up doing really well. It was about George R.R. Martin, the guy who wrote Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
So I put that up with just like, narration and like basic relevant clips. It was like pretty poorly edited in retrospect, but it ended up doing well. It got a couple thousand views over the first couple days, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool." But then it just kind of stayed there, and I was like, "All right, like I don't really know what to do with this channel because all the videos I put out after that were edited in the same style as that kind of flopped." Yeah. So I was a little bit discouraged, and then randomly, like you said, it a couple months later, it just like started shooting up in views, and now it's over 200,000 now. So I was like, like maybe I can do this. And ever since then, I've been posting pretty regularly.
Yeah, I mean, I want to sort of take you back to your first video that went like super popular. I think it was the Dune Messiah one. That's the one that caught my attention. And one thing I really liked about it was, it was very simple. It wasn't super like stylized or whatever, but it was very simple. And you sort of gave your opinion in a way that was very like engaging, and I sort of been watching you ever since. So like, was that video like something you always wanted to do, or was that like something like in the moment type of thing?
Well, admittedly, I was more of a Dune. I became a Dune fan when Denis started doing the adaptations. Yeah. So I wasn't like a lifelong Dune fan who always had this take about Dune Messiah. Yeah. I watched the 2021 movie. Yeah. And then I watched the one that came out
last year
in 2024. Yeah, last year. And then I was like, I love part 2 so much, the adaptation, that I was like, I got to start reading these books. Yeah. So I read the first one, really liked it. The second one, I really liked the second one as well. But then I was thinking, like, fuck, this is, I feel like viewers who liked part 2 they don't really know what they're in for with this one, because it's not really anything like the movie. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Just the fact that people are not really gonna a lot of people love the action and the spectacle of part 2 are going to be in for a rude awakening of sorts when they watch whatever he's going to do with the third one. So,
yeah, I mean,
so yeah, it was kind of just born out of that, really.
Okay, so did you like expect the video to like blow up the way it did? I mean, it's almost over 300K, I think. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. No, I didn't really expect it to do well. I mean, you always hope it will. You always hope it'll do well. And at that point, I did have the George Martin video that had done well. So it's always in the back of my head that's like, I know I can do it.
Yeah.
I know I can make a video that goes semi-viral. So you hope it will. And also, I didn't know that no one had really made a video like that yet. So I kind of had I'll put it this way, like I had a good feeling about it.
Yeah.
But you never really know what to expect. And I was proud of the video. So so it's always like you're just throwing a coin up in the air. You never really know. But
that's a great point because
best foot forward.
That's a great point actually because there's this YouTuber I was watching recently. Have you heard of Vagrant Holiday by any chance?
Vagrant Holiday? No.
Okay, so he's like this like travel vlogger, but he's very like he sleeps in bushes and he doesn't pay for anything. It's very, very interesting. And he kind of had his own cult following, and then they kind of stepped over that sort of boundary where things got very uncomfortable because people were trying to like. Because he doesn't show his face, right? And he's just like one day he's like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. He did this, I don't know, community post or whatever, and people were kind of like, what happened here? And then I realized, I'm like, man, parasocial relationships are like, do you hope that thing doesn't happen, or so you get pushed to that point? You have to do something drastic as that, or you don't really care about that?
Wait, so you think that this guy Vagrant Holiday, he ended the channel because of these parasocial relationships? That's what you're saying?
That's what he said.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. He's just tired of people acting like he's his friend and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's definitely something to be concerned about. Because in what I'm trying to do, like you basically are trying to make yourself something of a minor public figure.
Yeah.
So. Losing some semblance of anonymity is that comes with the territory in that kind of endeavor. So it's definitely something that I think about, but at the same time, I don't really imagine that I'll become someone like like people on the level of famous actors, like Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
Even the biggest YouTubers, unless I guess Mr. Beast would have to deal with something similar to that.
Yeah.
But, even YouTubers that have a couple million subscribers, I bet they could probably still walk down the street and maybe they'll have a person say what's up to them like that. But, you can basically get away with it. Yeah. I think what you more have to worry about is probably what this guy was dealing with, was just people hitting him up online all the time, and acting like they're friends or expecting things of him or expecting him to since they're subscribed to him, they can like tell him the direction of the channel or where he should be going. Yeah. So those things are uncomfortable to deal with, but I think at the end of the day, you just have to remember that, like, the people that subscribe to you, they're there to see you, or at least the loyal viewers are. Yeah. And you have to you have to consider what they want to some degree, but really you have to just keep making content that's true to yourself and your vision for the future of your channel, I think. Yeah.
So what was like the movie or the book or whatever that kind of like inspired you to like sort of expand yourself to make content on YouTube or whatever? Or was that always the thing you always wanted to do but you couldn't do because you had a job or whatever?
I've always been really opinionated about the things that I watch and see, and I guess I never really thought I was opinionated enough to start, or opinionated or maybe even intelligent enough to like start a YouTube channel and talk about things and because when you start a YouTube channel, there's some expectation that you believe inside of yourself that other people, that you have things that are worthy of other people to want to listen to.
Yeah.
So that takes a degree of confidence, and some might say delusion.
Yes.
But I was like, I think I can do this, because I've been a consumer of YouTube video essays in particular for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I kind of waited until my late 20s to really start doing it, which now I'm sort of kicking myself for, because I was like, damn, if I started doing this when I was in my early 20s, maybe I would be better off now than I am. But you can't. Hindsight's always 20/20.
Yeah,
to answer your question, I guess I made the George R. R. Martin video, but the first property that I really felt, that was like rich enough and dense enough, and I had enough to say about to really make a bunch of videos on and really kickstart the channel. What was Dune? It was definitely Dune.
Yeah.
I really like talking about stuff like that has like a rich backstory, and lots of characters and themes to dig into. It's really cool.
that was also, I mean, it's funny because like when I first heard about Doom, it's so funny because when I was younger, I think my dad was watching it and he turned it and he was sleeping. And it's so funny, he was sleeping on the couch. And this was like when I was younger, and I was watching it a little bit, and I was so confused. Like I didn't know what was going on. And then all that came back to me when I first heard it was being made by Denis Villeneuve, because like my brother's a big fan of him, Blade Runner 2049 and all that stuff, and he's like, hey, he's directing Dune. I'm like, okay. And then I saw the trailer. I'm like, okay, I want to watch this. And then I was in the theater, and man, that was something else. And in part 2. And it was great because I was watching it on IMAX, and it was like, this is it. Like, I mean, it blew me away. Like that, like the.
Dude, same. It was my favorite movie of last year. My friends are kind of like, really? Like, because they're I have a podcast too, Hate to Interrupt, and they're those guys tend to be more. I mean, it's one of them had Dune in their top 5, but I think they weren't as big on it as I was. But I was like, no. Dune was the best theater experience I had of 2024. I thought it was an incredible movie.
Yeah.
I mean, just like you said, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, and one thing I want to give, I don't know, this might be a little bit off topic, but the one thing about the Denis that people don't give him credit for, direction-wise, I swear every person in his movies look like the best version of themselves, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, like when they're in this movies,
like the lighting and the makeup. It's just like he's a master at atmosphere, and like it would be a shame if he stopped making those type of movies after Dune, because I feel like those are the movies I feel like he can flex those type of muscles, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's a great point. I never really thought about that, but that's definitely true. I do feel like he did Blade Runner 2049 and then doing the 3 Dune films.
Yeah, I
would imagine that just as a human being, like being in charge of like creating these large scale lived in sci-fi fantastical worlds that are extremely difficult to pull off.
Yeah, I
would imagine that he might want to return back to his roots and do something like Enemy or Prisoner or Sicario or something like that.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think he's the best sci-fi director working. I think he's one of the best of all time. I think people will come to see that eventually if they haven't already.
Yeah. But, I had a take. I think I was on Reddit, and I had a take that like after seeing Dune Part 2, this might have been overreactionary or whatever. I said like, is it crazy to say he's the greatest Canadian director ever? I know, like, what about James Cameron? But like, Denis' movies feel more Canadian to me, even though like his movies are never about Canada. Like, I know he made movies like in Montreal with his earlier stuff, but like those movies feel more indicative of the Canadian type of identity than James Cameron movies, and that's fine. But like, that's how I feel.
Let me see. So, are you from Canada?
Yeah.
Who are so you got? I'm not aware of that. Who are the other Canadian directors? I guess Ryan Reynolds is.
Yeah.
He's not a director, is he? He's like. You got David Cronenberg.
Yeah.
Denis Villeneuve.
James Cameron.
Let's see. Yeah, James Cameron. I mean, Sean Levy.
Yeah.
Another. I mean, he's not in the same conversation at
he's
all.
Not.
But that's another one I saw. I mean, dude, looking at all this entire list, he's definitely my favorite director on this list for sure.
For sure.
I mean, Cronenberg's made a lot of really great movies too.
Yeah.
But I would take at this point, I would take Villeneuve over Cameron. I guess my whole thing is that I've never been to Canada. I've always wanted to go though. I live in the like the northeast of America.
Like
so
where? Seattle?
No, I live in New York City.
Oh,
but
that's interesting.
But it's not that far of a drive really to get to to Montreal, because I've stayed in Burlington, Vermont a couple times, and they're like, dude, it's like a 2-hour drive to get to Montreal from here. I was like, what the fuck? That's crazy. So I've always wanted to go up there.
Yeah.
But, my point is I don't really know like what the Canadian, like what in a movie would capture a Canadian aesthetic or tone so much.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you think you've seen Prisoners,
yeah.
right? Is that like a Canadian vibe?
For sure. Like movie? It's funny because like he filmed like Enemy. He filmed a lot of it. I think he filmed quite a bit of it in Toronto, and my brother pointed that out to me, and I'm like, whoa, right? And I'm like,
yeah.
I was rewatching that movie recently because like I mean it's kind of a meme, the whole spider. So funny because when I first saw the poster, I'm like, is this spider like? Is this like is this like Cloverfield?
Yeah, dude, he was running through the 6 with Jake Gyllenhaal. That's crazy. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, I really like that movie, I
do too. Yeah, it's a really cool one.
It's kind of a mind bend though. Like the ending was like, whoa, like they flipped everything on its head, and
Yeah.
So
I haven't seen it in a minute, but that's one of my. It's definitely one of my favorite Gyllenhaal performances too.
Yeah,
I
sure.
really dig that movie.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Sean Levy because I kind of have a soft spot for him, like because he's kind of my childhood. Like I love Real Steel. Like that was one of the first movies I watched in the theater. I could vividly remember everybody going crazy over the robot fights. Another one was Night in the Museum. I love those movies, even though they're not the greatest movies. And I really like Deadpool Wolverine. And here's the thing, I'm like maybe like the biggest fan of Stranger Things in my neighborhood. So him directing some of those episodes, too, like okay, I could definitely see like his signature trademarks, right? Yeah,
for sure. I wasn't the biggest fan of Deadpool and Wolverine. I thought it was like it was definitely a fun time.
Yeah, it was.
I just it started to lose me in the third act a bit when all the Deadpools start showing up. It's just like it's kind of just like a byproduct of the fact like if none of these characters can die, like it's already difficult enough when it's just Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, and
it creates a lot of comedy, and the way I really thought that van scene that they did was pretty clever. Actually,
that was brilliant.
Because it's fun. It's funny. They make it look like it's a sex scene between these two guys, but they're really just like killing each other's immortal ass, eternally healing bodies. Like, it's pretty. That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
but yeah, when you get to the end and it's all these Deadpools that just can't die, and it's just like I don't know. It's difficult to really for me to really give a shit.
Yeah,
but it was a fun movie, and it was definitely something that I think Marvel needed at that moment in time. Clearly most people seem to like it more than I did, so like it did really well for Marvel. I'm a big fan of Marvel overall, which people make fun of me for admitting publicly, I guess, but like I've been a major fan for the past, I don't know, I guess like 15 years at this point. And I want to see them do well. Despite the fact that I don't love the way they've in the past monopolized the film industry. I think their movies are generally really fun, and I like the connectivity of their films. So I want to see them do well. I mean, Brave New World wasn't my favorite either, but I'm hopeful for the next two they're putting out.
I want to talk about that actually because, like, there was a time where, like, here's the thing. I'm like the biggest DC fan you might meet that isn't like wearing cosplay and shit. But I do admit, like, Marvel kind of like they kind of revolutionized this whole thing. And seeing people just crap on it now is like, come on, man. Did you guys just forget what they did the last like 10 plus years? Like, a couple bad movies shouldn't just change your opinion on one whole thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that, like, especially nowadays, I would imagine it's probably born out of the, instant gratification culture to some degree.
Yeah.
Like, people have so many avenues for entertainment and different ways to be entertained in the exact way they feel like being entertained at that specific moment.
Yeah.
So even if they really liked something, like a franchise that they really liked, or a podcast or anything, like, if it's not giving them that gratification that they want, that they've learned to expect from it, they're going to turn on it pretty quickly. And I mean, you saw that with Marvel within like the first 2 years after after their pandemic hiatus. Like, they put out WandaVision that did really well.
Yeah.
But as soon as they getting into like Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Hawkeye, people were like, what's up with all these Disney Plus shows? They suck. And then Eternals didn't really work that well, and people just kind of started really turning on it. But I mean, the thing with Marvel is, like, people do remember Endgame. And people remember Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans being like a really big deal, and really capturing people's hearts and minds in movies. And they're both going to be back for the next two. Yeah. So I mean, I don't think those Doomsday and Secret Wars will do as well as Infinity War and Endgame. Yeah. I don't think. I mean, that's lightning in a bottle. I don't know if any movies will ever be able to replicate that kind of success. Yeah. But I am confident that they will do pretty damn well. Yeah. And I think people will be reminded of what they loved so much about Marvel when those movies do come out.
I mean, that's the thing.
What do you think?
What I think is, like, do you watch sports by any chance?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm kind of a big football fan.
So what's your favorite NFL team?
I'm a Jets fan, so sometimes I can't watch.
All right, so
it's really depressing, but I know football. No.
Yeah, so the football team, I'm gonna compare the Marvel, the MCU as a whole. They're kind of like the Patriots with Brady, right?
Yeah, a good point. Yeah,
right. They've been so dominant so long, right? And they crushed everyone else's best times, right? Because I remember, like, when the DCU released Wonder Woman, right? And I remember watching it at home, and I really liked that movie. I still do. The conversation is, Wonder Woman was good, but, like, it's essentially Captain America the first Avenger, and I'm like, really? Here's the thing, I love that movie, by the way, but that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and that kind of sort of like that kind of thing. And when the Patriots, right? Because there were seasons where they didn't do as well as people expected, right? They lost the Super Bowl, or they lost in conference finals game, or they got knocked out in the first round, and everyone would just climb on them and say, they're never good, they're always frauds. But when they win, it's all crickets, right? It's kind of a similar thing. The same thing's happening to the Chiefs, right? Like, the whole year, everybody kept saying, man, this team is this, is that, and they make the Super Bowl. And it seemed like most people were kind of like resigned to the fact they're going to 3P. And then the Eagles destroyed them. And now all of a sudden, Mahomes can't be the GO, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, really?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, dude. It's crazy how you're so right, actually. That's a really good analogy that people will say one thing, and then the second things don't go the way they expected, or like the team or the film franchise makes a flop. It's like, they always suck. And it's funny that you mentioned the Patriots, because I feel like if you're going to say the Patriots are like the MCU, then Kevin Feige is like Bill Belichick, and Robert Downey Jr. is like Tom Brady. Yeah. And now neither of them are really part of it anymore. Yeah. But I mean, they got, at least they, Kevin Feige is, of course, still part of it, but I'm saying, Belichick and Brady aren't. But people were always wondering, is it Belichick that creates the success, or is it Tom Brady? And I guess, you know, once Brady left, Belichick wasn't able to replicate the success he had with Brady. And it's kind of like that with the MCU. It's like Feige had a lot of trouble replicating the success he had with Downey Jr.
Yeah.
So he's like, please come back.
You know what? I feel like there's a line, right? I don't know if it's from a song, but like it's a line that goes like, they scream out my failures, but they whisper my accomplishments. And that's kind of like,
is that a Drake line?
I think so.
That sounds like something Drake would say. I feel like that makes sense.
And it's like, I was thinking about it. Like, I don't know if people realize this, right? Like, I always wanted like obviously James Gunn he's making the DCU and Superman's gonna come out on my birthday, which is super cool.
Oh, cool.
And I'm like, if the DCU, hypothetically, this new one, had a stretch, like, post-Endgame, where that includes the 2 Spider-Man movies that made over $1 billion, that includes Deadpool Wolverine that did really well, that might include the Fantastic Four movie that looks really good, Thunderbolts that might do well, even, like, you want to include something like the Daredevil show, or, like, any of the Disney Plus shows that are good. That would be the best stretch of DC content we had since the Dark Knight trilogy. And even then, there was a ton of flops. Like Jonah Hex, Superman Returns. I really like Superman Returns, but like a lot of people didn't really mess with it, right, at the time. Even still, right? It's like their flop era is like most people's greatest successes. And that's the thing I always wanted to say. Is like, that's why I'll never count them out. Because like, again, they could make something like No Way Home like that, then anything's possible, right?
Yeah, no, it's really true. I mean, Marvel is considered something of a failure in the 2020s, but that's only because everyone's comparing them to the like unfathomable success that they had in the first decade of their cinematic universe, which is, you know, like I said before, it's just it's lightning in a bottle. Like I don't think that you really can expect them to replicate that.
Yeah.
You know, I think there is some validity to the argument that maybe they should have just ended it at Endgame or at, I don't know, at like No Way Home or something, and just been like, yeah, we had a great 10 years. I think, you know, pre 2010, or I think that's definitely what would have happened. To expect the film franchise to continually like make new storytelling elements and just keep going on and on with the story. This is definitely like an invention of the modern world that we just can't let things go. Stories don't really end anymore.
Yeah.
Especially in you know, these big IP franchises, which you know, there's, I think, probably a net bad, but there's also some cool things about it too, that you get to like, you know, see more of the thing that you like. And comics are, it's a never-ending story.
Exactly.
You know? So I mean, with that, it's comic book adaptations. If there's one film franchise that's successful enough to keep it going, you know, maybe there isn't anything wrong with that. I don't know. But I definitely agree with you that Marvel is still a successful company, and Kevin Feige, I don't know if people realize this, but he's by far the most successful film producer of all time.
Yeah, no question.
It's not even close.
No question.
So like, I think that he will be able to. I have faith that he's going to make, or not that he necessarily makes the movies, but like I think that he's gonna turn the ship around. He'll right the ship.
You know what? It's interesting because
movies will be good.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think the rise of channels like, you know, Nerdrotic and Critical Drinker and Malware and like there's just a constant like negativity to me is so off-putting. Like, if you don't like something, don't watch it. Like, no one's forcing you to watch this stuff, right?
Yeah, no, it's so true, and that's definitely not the kind of content that I want to make. I mean, I'll be critical of something, but I don't think that it's helpful to speak the way those guys do about movies. I don't think, especially because so much of those guys of their criticism. Nerdrotic and Critical Drinker in particular. I don't really know too much about Mahler. I've heard sort of that he's kind of, you know, you group them together. I've heard people do that before as well.
Yeah.
But I think that they're so hyper focused on this, like, everything's woke now, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's diversity in films, and that's not what it was like when I was a kid, and I don't like that. And it's like, dude, you got to get over yourself. I mean, it's not like you can either accept that the world is changing and be cool with that, or you can just be an asshole on the internet who just like is screaming at the sky about it. It's like, fucking just let it go. It's embarrassing. Like, I don't know how old those guys are, but I just could not imagine myself. Nerdrotic looks like he's getting up there in age.
Yeah.
To be like a guy in your late 30s and being like, oh, there was a black guy in this movie and that's blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, fucking shut up. Like, I don't mean to roast these guys, but it's like, it's a little ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
I'm sorry. I don't want to assume your politics, but like, I just find it totally stupid.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's, like, here's the thing, right? Like, I don't know, like, I feel like, the problem with that type of content, there's another guy, I think back in the day, it was when Last Jedi came out, all these guys just start popping out, like world-class bullshitters, geeks and gamers. I don't know why I'm mentioning these guys' names, but those guys, for some reason, just jumped on this train. They had never left this train, and it was Star Wars, then it's Marvel, then it's the new Snow White movie, then it's Ariana Grande and Wicked. I'm like, bro, like, come on, man.
Yeah, and it's the fact that it's just this. It's the same video, really, over and over again. I mean, I will give Critical Drinker credit that he's a step above in terms of like actually writing reviews. I mean, he takes time to talk about what the movie's actually about.
Yeah,
where it seems like a lot of these other guys, they're just like woke this and woke that. It's like, dude, I know it's just like rage baiting people. It's just rage baiting people.
Yeah.
To try to get people to watch stuff that's in line with their base impulses about people that aren't like them. And I think it's honestly, I just think it's gross. I don't think it's valuable as movie critique. I don't think it's media analysis.
Yeah.
I think it's political activism disguised as media analysis. And
I don't want to.
It's lazy. Ultimately, it's just lazy.
I absolutely agree. I mean, the thing about the one point that I really agree about is the whole sort of political analysis disguised as something else. Because, like, it's so funny because you're living in New York, right? And I think the Democrats won that state by a lot. Even though, like, Trump won, like, I think he won the presidency, the Senate, the House, and they're still unhappy. You're getting everything you guys supposedly wanted, and you guys are still being jerks. Like, what?
Yeah, no, that's a really, really interesting point that you just brought up, because I think that what it is that they did win the presidency.
Yeah.
They politics and government reflect their views right now and their worldviews. But what people interact with culture way more than they interact with politics.
Yeah.
So if they feel like the culture doesn't reflect their views, then they still feel like they lost.
Yeah.
And the thing with conservatives is like, Hollywood and musicians and artists and, those people are all generally left-leaning.
Yeah.
So culture is shaped by the left, and it usually it's always been that way.
Yeah.
So that's why conservatives get so mad about it, because they never really get to see their worldview reflected in the art they consume, because there's just not a lot of it being made. And that's why you have people like Ben Shapiro, because there's a massive hole in the market for something like that. People like Ben Shapiro are trying to make movies directed by, written by and consumed for conservatives.
Yeah.
And, I have absolutely no problem with that. I think the movies are pretty bad.
Yeah.
I think it's, it's totally fine to do that. And there's actually a couple conservative filmmakers that I do think, speaking of James Cameron, I've heard he's a conservative.
Yeah.
And he makes good movies. And
Clint Eastwood?
S. Craig Zoller is a filmmaker. Have you seen like Dragged Across Concrete? Have you ever seen that movie?
I heard of it, but I haven't watched it.
Yeah, he's a conservative filmmaker that's pretty damn good too. So I'm not saying it's impossible for conservatives to be good at art, obviously. Yeah. But it's just what I was saying before. They want to see culture reflected in their worldviews reflected in culture, and it just doesn't happen that often. So it's upsetting. I can understand that.
The thing with that is like And also, they misinterpret their own work. I mean, I look at Clint Eastwood, right? And he's like the most, I don't know, outwardly conservative person. And even then, like, he doesn't put that in his work, usually, right? Like, I look at something like Invictus. Great film, by the way. You would not guess a conservative person made that. You would like, okay, this is a great filmmaker, right? He doesn't sort of allow his personal feelings or whatever towards something be who he is. He let his work speak for itself, right? And they don't get that.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, Clint Eastwood is definitely a good example of someone who is, you know, in their personal life conservative, but generally doesn't really make that all about, you know, doesn't make his work all about that, which is something that maybe Ben Shapiro should take a cue on, because I feel like, you know, even if you're trying to make movies for conservatives, which he is, it doesn't need to be like a Daily Wire article in movie form for them to like it. I mean, Sound of Freedom is kind of a good example of this, where it's like, yeah, it's about things that conservatives tend to care about, or, you know, claim to care about, and but it's not an overtly, you know, rah conservative movie. It's just a movie that I think conservatives ended up liking. Which you know, and that movie was really successful. So maybe that's a better blueprint for it. And I will say, you know, to critique my own people a little bit on the left, because, you know, if you can't tell by now, I am on the left. But to say, you know, I think that's a problem that a lot of left wing filmmakers do have, because it's like before you can craft a message that you think people want to hear, that's important to you, and you know, themes that matter to you. You have to make a good movie. It has to be a good movie that has. You're not just going to skate by on a diverse cast and you know, themes or that leftist people or liberal people will enjoy. I think that time is past. I think maybe you could have gotten away with that in the late 2010s, but like now people are like, all right, what else you got for me? Like, that's not enough now. And I think that's good. I think it's good that you can't just be like, we have the most diverse cast in history, and then everyone's going to go watch it because of that. That's not enough, you know? So I think it is, not to be like a both sides guy, but I think it's an issue on both sides for sure. You know?
Yeah, you know, like the thing is that, I mean, like, the way that, you know, people deal with that type of criticism is always interesting to me, because are you a fan of, like, have you heard of Ana de Armas?
No, what kind of content? Is he a YouTuber?
No, she's an actress.
Ana de Armas. Oh my god, I'm sorry. I thought you said Iron something. Yeah, Ana de Armas. Yeah, I know her.
Yeah, and she said something along the lines of like, oh, like, she did this little rant, I don't know, interview when Blonde came out, and she's like, there's no movie star, there's no mystique, we need that. I'm like, is that a good thing though? Like, the very fact that sort of the idol worshipping type of thing is kind of on the wayside. Obviously, there's kind of cult of personalities. You mentioned Timothée Chalamet at the beginning, where there's kind of a cult of personality, but like, overall, most of his fans like him because of his work. They don't just like him because whatever he does, right?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing. I was talking about this on my podcast the other day, because we were talking. You know, Joel Haver, he's a YouTuber.
Yeah,
he makes like short films and stuff.
Yeah.
So he's like he's a filmmaker too. You know, I shouldn't say he's just a YouTuber. He's a filmmaker. He probably thinks of himself as a filmmaker first and foremost. And I would agree. But I mean, he has like a very Hollywood anti Hollywood ideology that seems like he lives by. And he really doesn't like the fact that, you know, for A Complete Unknown, the Chalamet movie in particular, he was like, it's just ironic that this movie is called A Complete Unknown, yet it's a millionaire who's cosplaying as another millionaire. You know, he doesn't like that basically that Hollywood just recasts the same people over and over and over again. And that, you know, the other actors aren't given a chance to shine. Like, for me, I see where he's coming from, but it's a double-edged sword, because it's kind of a cool thing to watch an actor like Chalamet or Leo or Joaquin Phoenix or any of these really talented people
Yeah.
who become like cultural touchstones for everyone to be like, oh, you know, I love Chalamet in this, I love Chalamet in that. And you watch them transform over the years. It's a pretty cool thing.
It is.
But at the same time, what that creates is it pushes so many other talented actors out of Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know? So
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I look at an example of like, have you watched 24, the show? 23, whatever?
I when I was a kid, I remember watching it sometimes. I definitely did, not regularly, though.
So the
I know
lead
the premise,
guy,
though.
I don't know, what's his name? Keith Sutherland, right? He's been
Kiefer
in movies,
Sutherland,
but like, I feel like he's kind of one of the examples you're kind of mentioning of a guy like who's super talented, right? But he got pushed out because a whole new wave came on, and I don't know if it's on him, he didn't adapt, or he just didn't want to go in that direction, right? Because some of the stuff he was doing in that show, even though the show was kind of like low key Islamophobic in its tones and themes, right? It's still a good show. Right? And it's like...
Yeah. I mean, that seems like Homeland was kind of like that, too, I've heard.
Yeah.
I don't know about 24. But I can imagine coming out at that time, right after 9/11, there was a lot of content like that being made. I didn't mean to interrupt you, though. You finish your point. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean... And that's just one example. I mean, another guy is... I forgot the guy, but he's this old guy that was in that Bill Hader show, Barry. And
the guy who plays his
his acting coach.
The guy, his acting coach.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's Henry Winkler.
Henry Winkler.
Yeah, the that's the Fonz, bro.
Yeah, and I was watching that show recently, and I was blown away by his performance. And then I go on his Wikipedia page, right, of movies, and he's not like he's in movies, but he's not like. You know, there's not a lot of things I can see, which is I find very interesting, right? Because supposedly we're in this era where like movies and TV shows are looked at the same level, right? But there's still not a lot of crossover, right? So it's kind of paradoxical in that way.
So yes, someone like Henry Winkler, I think he ended up getting a big comeback role in Barry because he was a pretty popular character actor for a while.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it'd be common to see him pop up in things in like the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's just like I just think it's difficult for older actors who aren't like Robert De Niro or Al Pacino, you know, like the cream of the crop. It's difficult for them to get cast in things, especially if you're a woman. You know, it just gets harder as you get older.
Yeah,
you know, you're just less and less likely to get roles. So it is sad. But I totally agree with what you said, though. Film and television, I think, at this point, I mean, there might be still a little bit more prestige on film, but if it's a really good show, like people are going to be talking about it just as much, if not more, than a good movie. I mean, look at Stranger Things.
Yeah. And
I think Stranger Things creates more like discourse, viral discourse than any movie that comes out, probably, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, I was thinking about this take because they were posting some behind the scenes stuff, right? And I like the post. I was thinking about this take about like if they land this ending, right? Because Stranger Things season 5 is going to be the last season, right? It's going to release this year, and that'll be the end of it. Is it crazy to say that if it sticks to the ending, could it be considered like the greatest show since Breaking Bad?
I mean, for me personally, I wouldn't put it up there just because I didn't like the third season that much.
Yeah.
Like, I liked it, but I didn't love it. Like, I love the first two. The first one is fucking goated. I love the first one.
Yeah.
The second one was good, was really good. I really liked the second one. And the third one lost me somewhere.
Yeah.
I too far away from it to give you specifics.
Yeah.
I remember just not really feeling all that engaged with the plot. And I think what it was, one thing I remember is like, I feel like I really need some kind of force that's controlling things in the Upside Down besides this giant spider monster that's faceless. Like, that's cool, but like I want to know
Yeah.
what the plan is. What does it want?
Yeah.
Besides controlling Will Byers, like I want to know what it wants actually. And then Vecna came up in the fourth season. I was like, dude, let's go. This is great. I love Vecna. I love the fourth season too.
Yeah, that sort of shift in tone, the dark tone, I really really liked it because I always thought like, they're leading into these sort of hard horror, but they're not gonna jump it because obviously you don't want to lose your younger viewers. They're gonna be scared shitless, right? But the fourth season, they're like, okay, we're gonna go for it. And you don't watch it, cool. But you watch it, you're gonna get something new, and that's what I really really liked about it. And the one thing I want to say is that, about the show and also just about its overall impact is like, I feel like, Stranger Things is kind of like, and I don't know why I'm making this comparison. This might be a weird comparison to make. It's kind of like the Eagles team that won the Super Bowl, right? It's a weird comparison, but hear me out, right? All the pieces are all reminiscent of other things. Like, Saquon Barkley is reminiscent of like, Barry Sanders. Jalen Hurts is reminiscent of, like, someone like Donovan McNabb, but more accurate. Their defense is old school, right? Zach Brown, I ain't even heard of this guy. And all of a sudden, he's playing, like, the best linebacker in the league, besides, like, Levante David or whatever. It's, like, it's throwback, but, like, it's, like, it has all the best bits. And also, it doesn't, like, sort of, how do I say this? It doesn't rely on that, right? There's not a lot of nostalgia dating. There's obviously, and I think that might be the reason why season 3 didn't really land with most people, because it kind of felt like they're leading into this 80s idealism type of thing, which I'm like, okay, like, I don't know.
Dude, you're the king of football analogies, because that one really works too. I think that one's sick. But yeah, I feel like Stranger Things. It uses nostalgia to get you in the door.
Yeah.
Like the first season, all the iconography of the 80s, the kids riding the bikes reminds you of like, it reminds you of all the best 80s movies about that, childhood and, coming of age stories.
Yeah.
And also some of the greatest sci-fi stories too. And gross out, cosmic horror type things. It really uses that as a backdrop to get people like, oh, what's this? And then it tells you a great story, which is something I think a lot of these legacy sequels don't do. Yeah. But to go back to what you're saying about could it be considered the greatest show of all time, or since Breaking Bad is what you said? Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of people definitely will consider it that just based on like impact alone, even. If they can stick the landing and tell a story that's as good as season, because I think season 4 is just as good as season 1, just in a different way. Yeah, I mean, I really do respect the show a lot. I think it's very 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 well done. Yeah, and I think it deserves to be up in conversations like that. Sure. Even if there's a season in there that I didn't like as much as other people, but yeah, I agree with you. I think it deserves that classification. Yeah, because it's interesting because, like, one of the funniest things is that when time passes, we tend to, like, romanticize the good and forget all the bad. Like, that's why nostalgia bias is such a big thing, right? Yeah. It's one of the things that's kind of poisoning football discourse, kind of, because it's like, whatever an old highlight gets posted. Like, I remember, I think there's a highlight of Tom Brady getting his helmet fell off or something, like, because someone hit him super hard. And it's, oh, this is what real football's about. And I'm like, really? I'm like, come on, man. Like, it's just like, it's also the reason why, like, like, I don't know if I ask you this, but like, who's your favorite football player right now? I mean, I guess. Since I'm a Jets fan, I would have to go and say Aaron Rodgers. But like, he didn't really have a great season last year. I'm hoping I'm hearing he's going to do another one. I'm hoping that he comes back and does one. So I guess I would have to say him at this point. But like, it's interesting you picked him because like I remember when I was younger, right? Like he was everywhere. He was in all the commercials. He was maybe the most likable player in the league. That was a quarterback. Right? Mm-hmm.
and you have juxtaposing Tom Brady, like this Terminator type of guy, Peyton Manning, like this sort of sensei type of like god quarterback in the regular season at least. You have Russell Wilson, who's very good, but like there's a lot like of the Jalen Hurts discourse, where like, is it the team? Is it him? Is it Marshawn Lynch? Is it the Legion of Boom? Is it Pete Carroll? All that stuff, right? Aaron felt like he should be anointed as the best, and he was still that. Like, he was still at bare minimum a top 3 guy at his position until 2022, and then he leaves Green Bay, then he tears his Achilles, then he comes back next season, and sure, statistically, he looks okay, but game to game, he was not very good. And then the whole, like, sort of COVID debacle happened during that point, and him going on Joe Rogan, and him going on Pat McAfee's show, and spewing some very weird things about Jimmy Kimmel, and all that stuff. It's just like, and then I hear
Wait, what did he say about Jimmy Kimmel?
It says he said something like he's on the Epstein list or something like that. I'm like, oh my god.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I know. It's like, that. And it's so weird. And it's just like, but the one thing I don't like is that just because someone says one thing or a couple of things, we just forget to pretend that they were really good at this other thing that they were doing the whole time. Like. Yeah. Just because you personally like someone does not mean the person that you like is like elite or whatever, right? Like, I love, there's a quarterback I really love. I really like Jordan Love, right? But I'm not gonna say he's the top 5 quarterback just because, right? I feel like people allow their feelings to overload their actual analysis when regards into something, and that goes for anything, if it's film or movies or music or whatever, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned this, because this is something that I feel like I think about a lot, and I feel like I'm going to make a video about it soon. But it's like, especially if you go on subreddits, any Reddit is a good barometer for like the health of a fan base. Yeah, because it's just like, it's a bunch of really like-minded, usually because if you go on Reddit, you're probably opinionated. Yeah, so it's going to be a high concentration of the most opinionated fans of anything that you can see on the internet. Yeah. So if those people are turning on something, then you realize like something's gone wrong. But it's like it's also a hive mind mentality. It's like, whenever there's a bad episode of a podcast, or a team had a bad game, or a player had a bad game, or a movie franchise put out an installment that you don't like, eventually the entire fandom's going to be like, what's going on with this? Like, actually, this thing that I thought I loved might actually suck. Yeah. Like, it happens all of the time. You know, like fan bases are so fickle. Yeah, and I try to figure out what exactly that is, but I think it goes back to that instant gratification thing that I was talking about before. It's like, you have so many avenues to get entertainment from now that you can jump ship and go over to try another show if the show that you once liked isn't doing it for you anymore. Yeah,
it's kind of like
so many options.
Yeah, it's kind of like, do you watch Teen Titans back in the day when it was, as height?
What was it?
Teen Titans. Did you ever watch that show?
Oh, Teen Titans. Yeah, I remember watching it when I was a kid. Yeah, I watched it a little bit.
Did you like it?
I don't remember it being one of my favorites. No, not really.
Okay, I love that show. I really liked it when I was younger. I rewatched it when I was older, and I still love that show. But seeing some of like the discourse around that show, and just like, we need a season 6. Oh, this is unresolved. Oh, Teen Titans Go sucks. This version of the Titans live action, it sucks. And I understand where they're coming from. It's just like live action Titans, that one was kind of like a miss. Teen Titans Go is again a miss for me. But I'm not gonna start like complaining about something, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like you said, like, people just refuse to let things go, right? And sure, would a season 6 of that show be amazing? Absolutely. But what the fear might be is, like, the end of the show is like, okay, can we have season 7? Can we have season 8? Like, it's like, they're never going to be satisfied with it, right?
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Teen Titans because I'm actually a big fan of the DC animated films.
Yeah.
You like those?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think of the Crisis on Infinite Earths trilogy?
It's funny you say that because I remember I didn't watch it at the time, and then Jeremy Johns did this review about it, and he liked it, and I'm okay. I'll watch it. I watched it. I enjoyed it. But I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. I don't know, man. I just, when I see Raven, I'm just like, I like the portrayal. I'm just like, they should have picked a better design. I understand where they're coming from. They can't just copy it for something else, but like, that kind of got lost. But I liked it. You know, it's different. It's darker, but it's not like, it doesn't like jump the shark. They're not just cussing or anything like that, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, I was a big fan of the DC AMU, the whole animated universe that ended with the I always forget what it was Justice League Dark Apocalypse War.
Yeah,
that was like the end game of the DC AMU.
Yeah,
and I really love that one. And then it seems like they're coming back with this. They came back with Warworld, and then they did this 3-part Crisis on Infinite Earths trilogy. I thought it was really cool how they used John Constantine as like the connective tissue between those two iterations of the DC animated stuff. Like he shows up and you could tell it's him, but he doesn't even really remember who he is.
Yes,
it's like him he's like, I know. He says to the Flash, like, I don't even remember what I did anymore, but I know you share my guilt. I was like, that's fucking badass.
that was.
I was like, this is really cool.
That was pretty cool, and you know, I've been reading. Ever since, it's so funny because the one sort of I'll ask you a question. What was the movie that got you into comic books in general? It could be a show or something, but like, what was the thing that got you into that in the first place?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because like I was never really I never read comic books. I still don't really read them. My brother got me my brother and my friends have bought me a couple. Like I have Ultimate Spider-Man now, and I have some of the Civil War comics, and I read those, and they're really good.
Yeah.
But you know, I was a major fan of growing up of the Sam Raimi trilogy.
Yeah.
And I still love those Spider-Man movies. So he's still my favorite iteration of the character.
Yeah.
But you know, I guess I wasn't really a major Marvel fan until I saw Infinity War 2018. Like I was a casual fan. I went to go see Civil War. I saw the first Avengers in 2012 in theaters.
Yeah. And
but it was really when I saw Infinity War that I was like, whoa, this is actually a really, really cool thing.
Yeah.
You know? It's not, the thing is, it's like, I agree with what Martin Scorsese says about those movies sometimes, that like, it's not cinema in the way that something that, you know, for example, he would make is cinema, but I don't think that means that it's not good.
Yeah.
It's still fucking good. It's really
kind of
good,
like,
you know,
it's kind of like,
it's a different thing.
I know, right? But like, I'll say this, right? Like for example, like, what's your favorite like musician or artist or whatever?
My favorite band all time is probably Radiohead.
Okay, Radiohead. Okay. And who's your favorite mainstream person?
Kendrick Lamar.
Okay. So, like, it's kind of like, for example, like, it's kind of like, you know, that the Scorsese cinema comment is very interesting. It's like, fundamentally, right, we're comparing apples and oranges, right? It's like if I said, you know, oh, the latest, I don't know, Chaperone album is not artistically on the same wavelength as like Radiohead's like OK Computer. Like, dude, these are two completely different genres, right? And it's coming from a person that enjoys both, right? But like, it's kind of like apples and oranges, but it's still music, right? Those like, just because you can enjoy the MCU does not mean you cannot not appreciate what Scorsese or Nolan or Kubrick or whatever do, because those guys are those guys for a reason, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's the trap that so many film fans get stuck in. And I just had this argument on my podcast about about this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, I'll send it to you, Nick, so you can listen to it.
Okay.
Hear me talk about it. But yeah, it's like he's always on the tip, and a lot of people are on this tip of being like, oh, people who enjoy Marvel movies and these big IP franchises, they're just like, they're stupid. They don't know anything about film and all this stuff. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't think it's really a take that encapsulates the entire totality of what it is to be a fan of stuff.
Yes.
Like people are fans of things for a lot of different reasons. They're fans of different genres. They're even fans of different qualities of films. Like you can like a sort of mid or bad movie for your own personal reasons.
Yeah.
And it really says nothing about you or even about the other films you like. You know? I just think I feel like it's also partially, it's like, people like to hate on the biggest thing out there at the moment, which is why last year everyone was hating on Drake. Like you couldn't walk down the street without hearing somebody bump "Not Like Us" because it was just time for Drake's downfall.
Yeah.
So like I get that. I get people wanted to hate on the biggest kid on the block. It makes sense, but I don't know.
It's interesting. It's like because you said you're a Kendrick Lamar fan. I used to be like the biggest Kendrick Lamar fan ever. I was saying like he was the Michael Jordan of hip hop. This is before like this beef was even really a thing. And the one thing that kind of irks me about him now is like, was that victory over Drake really that impressive, considering like Drake was like the most divisive hip hop guy? Because I'm from Canada, right? And how we feel about Drake is fundamentally different than how most people feel about him outside of that. Because when he came up, right, like it felt different, right? Because we had crossover artists before. We had Ryan Adams and forgot her names, Female Act and Nelly Furtado and whatever, right? But this felt fundamentally different, right? So obviously as time goes by and people kind of move away from that. I feel like, here's the thing. I want to say this. I'm not a Drake fan. I used to be a big Drake fan. And then when Morlock came out, he kind of lost me on that. And I kind of distanced myself away from that. And this whole beef thing brought all of that back in the fold. Right? Because, like, I think about this, right? I'll give you an example. Like, would Tom Brady be the GOAT if he only beat the people that we expected him to beat, like the Phillip Rivers of the world, the Mark Sanchez's of the world, the Chad Penningtons of the world, and those guys are good quarterbacks, especially Chad. Shout out to him. But like the reason why he's the GOAT because he can beat anybody, right? And the one thing that the Kendrick stuff to me is interesting is that it feels like these other rappers can't really diss him straight up because it's like, oh, you're cloud chasing, oh, why would he even look at you type of thing, which just to me is stupid, right? If you think a genre is a competition, you should compete against anybody, right? That's how it works. It's not a competition if we can't go after the biggest guy, right? The boogeyman does not pick the easy target. He picks the person that can't be beat and he beats that person into submission. That's how it works, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get where you're coming from. The thing is, with the Drake and Kendrick beef, first of all, it was 10 years in the making.
Yeah.
These guys have been throwing shots at each other for so long.
Yeah.
It was bound to happen at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know how much it even had to do with Drake being the biggest. I think it had to do with Kendrick having a really big problem, and we all heard like on Euphoria and Meet the Grams especially, like how big that problem actually was with the way Drake has carried himself throughout his career.
Yeah.
And I feel like Kendrick, sure, he could have picked on a better rapper, potentially, but Drake has proven himself in battle before. I mean, the Meek Mill battle back to back and charged up, like he fucking basically ended Meek Mill's career. So it's like, it's not that Drake isn't. I think he was, even though I'm not a huge fan of his music. I think it would be a mischaracterization to say he wasn't like a worthy competitor for Kendrick. I think he was. You wouldn't agree with that? I think he was a worthy competitor for Kendrick.
I feel like
because Kendrick wasn't battle tested at that point. You know.
I feel like, you know, I don't know. I don't know if it's me or maybe I'm too terminally online, but like, I feel like seeing guys like Needle Drop and Sean C and like sort of those type of guys, like, and obviously I like Sean C way more than Needle Drop, by the way, but like seeing those guys just kind of like pounce on this whole thing and says all these sort of weird statements, like it's so funny because like this clip is going viral on Twitter. Like, have you heard of FD Singlifier?
Yeah.
Okay, so he did this video about the Drake Kendrick beef, which I found was pretty interesting, but I couldn't watch the whole thing through. Like, it was 3 hours long. I didn't have that much time on my hands.
As hell. I listened to it on a long drive.
All right,
it was a good video.
All right, and he made this point about like if you like Drake, you could like some Drake songs, but like if you're a fan of Drake, you are a loser. You're an insult. I'm like, okay. I'm like, first of all, as a person that's not a Drake fan, can you imagine someone saying this? If someone said this about, if you're a fan of Kendrick, you just, like, you're this, you're that. Like, that to me is like, what?
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't engage with that. I think that's ridiculous. I mean, yeah, it goes back to the stuff we were talking about before about the MCU. It's like, you can like all different kinds of stuff, and liking Drake doesn't mean you necessarily co-sign all of his bad behaviors or whatever. I mean, you know, and the other thing that has to be noted is we don't really know if any of the stuff that Kendrick said is true. You know, there really hasn't been. There's been, you know, whispers here and there, and if you are terminally online like me and like you said you were, you've probably seen some of the stuff.
Yeah.
You know, Drake being on stage and like kissing some 17-year-olds when he was, you know, in his early career, weird stuff like that. I mean, the most interesting thing is remember in Meet the Grams, Kendrick was saying like he has people like his Drake's team lines women outside of his house and they call it Tinder. I mean, I've seen things like that sort of corroborate that line. There are women outside that call like there are women on TikTok and stuff that were posting stuff when they were younger. They would be they were like a part of Drake's personal Tinder lineup. So maybe there is some truth to that stuff, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's definitely not fair to say, considering how big Drake's fan base is. He's the biggest rapper of all time, just in terms of like, you know, pure sales and streams and everything. To say that if you're a fan of that, even casually, it's like, there's no way that you can say that you're a bad person or you're an incel or whatever.
To me, I find that interesting because I think someone is suing TDE right now. Like,
really?
Yeah, they're accusing a couple of. They're not accusing Kendrick specifically, but I think Top Dog's son and a couple of the artists on the label, they've been accused of like sexual harassment, right? And I was reading through the court documents, and I'm like, you're telling me Drake couldn't like use that? You're telling me like that's why that whole beef just fundamentally does not make any sense to me. Right? There are legitimate things he could have said, he just didn't say. Like, the whole, like, he brought someone on stage.
That was going on at the time that he made Family Matters, the TDE lawsuit?
It just came out, like, right now, but it's been in the works for a while, I'm hearing.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
right?
Well, maybe he didn't know about it. I mean, dude, at that point, I feel like if he did know about it, there's no way he wouldn't have said it, considering, like, all the stuff that... I mean, Drake went nuclear on Family Matters after Euphoria,
yeah,
you know? And then Kendrick took it even further on Beat the Grams and Not Like Us. I mean, dude, sometimes do you remember that night though? Like, I don't know how you feel about the beef with some time in between us and everything, but it's just like the night that Family Matters and Meet the Grams came out was one of the craziest nights to be a hip hop fan.
That was crazy.
To just that back to back moment of just being like, oh shit, like Family Matters came out. I wasn't that crazy about Family Matters. I thought he had some good bars in there.
Yeah.
But as a Kendrick fan, I was sweating a little bit because it was getting a lot of positive attention online. I was like, oh shit, is Kendrick gonna lose this thing? I never actually thought he was gonna lose, but then when Meet the Grams came out, I was like, oh my God. He just went so hard on that track. And, like, I remember feeling at that point, I was like, all right, I feel like these guys got to, like, chill out a little bit because, as we know, like, sometimes rap beef it goes beyond just bars. And no one wants to see that. You know?
Yeah, no one wants to see that. You're right.
And that was, like, I think a couple days after that was when Drake's house got shot up by, like, the Weeknd's people.
Yeah, that was crazy. I'm like, what's going on? I feel like I have a little bit of theory about Kendrick because this is beyond the beef. This is something I've been noticing the last couple of years. Like, a lot of the more respected hip hop figures have all been kind of like they either been like passing away or been stepping down. I've been noticing that, especially after Nipsey died. And Nipsey, that always rubbed me the wrong way. I feel like someone put a hit on him. There's no way.
You think so?
Yeah, I think, I don't know why. Because me and my friends, I was talking about it with my friends recently. And I'm like, someone brought up, like, who would want him dead? And I don't know why. I jokingly said, why not Kendrick? Right? Why not? Right? And I'm like, because I brought up the Diddy stuff because Diddy is interesting because, like, Biggie was supposed to leave Bad Boy after, I think, his second album, right? And then before his second album, he died a month before the album actually dropped, which is, to me, crazy eerie. I'm like...
And especially considering the name of the album, you know?
Yeah. So...
I've always found that very creepy, that the album is called Life After Death, is dropped right after he died. Like, that just, like, kind of gives me chills. It's just, like, a weird coincidence, you know? Or maybe not, like you said. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to say either way, but that's always creeped me out, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What's your most anticipated movie of this year? Because we're gonna get a lot of good ones coming up in the next couple months.
Yeah, I would say I'm definitely very excited to see The Monkey, which is coming out now. I'm a big fan of Oz Perkins. Yeah. I really liked Longlegs.
Yeah.
And then I'm super excited to see maybe not Jurassic World so much. I've never been a Jurassic World fan, but I'm really excited to see James Gunn's Superman movie.
Yes.
The Fantastic Four movie is definitely on my radar as well. I thought the Thunderbolts trailer was really good. Yeah. And then I'm not sure if it's coming out this year. It might be next, but Ari Aster's new movie Eddington is coming out soon too.
That's a good one.
And I'm really, really pumped for that. I gotta check and see if it's coming out this year. But yeah, there's a lot of good because I feel like 2024 was, you know, besides Dune and a couple other notable exceptions, was kind of a lull year for movies. I think it was the proximity to COVID and the writer's strike and everything. Yeah. That kind of made it like this weird lull, but there's a lot of good stuff coming out this year and next. So I'm pretty pumped for that.
Yeah, for sure. So sort of back on the interesting thing is, like, are you a Tron fan by any sense?
Tron?
Yeah.
No, not really. I'm not really familiar with that too much.
You ever watched Tron Legacy?
No, I never did.
You should.
I never watched the original one either.
You should, man. Like, it's I don't know if it'll be up your alley or anything like that, but like the soundtrack by Daft Punk, I'm like, oh my lord, that was like.
Oh yeah, I've always heard about that. Yeah, being a great soundtrack.
Yeah, but Tron Ares is gonna drop, I think, in October, and I've been following the whole production ever since it got announced in 2020. Right, and it's so funny because when they announced it, the original director, I think it was Garth Davis, where he made Lion, which was like a Best Picture nomination, like 2016, I think. And he dropped out because of creative differences. But Jared Leto was going to star in the movie or produce it or whatever. And the guy who made the last two Pirates of the Caribbean movies, Jack Roning, he also made a pretty good movie with Daisy Ridley this year, like last year, I think. Like the swimming movie with Disney and stuff. Forgot the name, but that was pretty good. And then I started seeing all the cast members come out, I think Gillian Anderson's in it. Hassan Minhaj is in it. Sarah forgot, but she's in Yellow Jackets. Greta Lee's in
Oh
it.
yeah. One of the Yellow Jackets. Yeah, I watched. You like that show, Yellow Jackets?
I liked it, yeah, but I don't know. The last season was kind of like okay, like off the rails.
It's definitely not one of my favorites, but it was kind of a fun watch.
Yeah.
Are you watching Succession at all? I'm not Severance.
Severance, man, I gotta watch that. I've been seeing so many clips on it online. I'm like, I gotta find time for me to watch it because that looks very, very, very interesting.
Yeah, that's a really, really, really good show. I think a lot of people are kind of on your level about it because they're like, oh, do I really need to get Apple TV to watch this? Just like another streaming service.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that good. It really is. Another movie that I'm really interested in seeing this year is it's an A24 movie called Friendship.
Oh yeah.
It's starring Paul Rudd and Tim Robinson.
I saw that.
Really
that
good.
was pretty cool.
I saw the trailer for it, and I can't tell like what the tone is. It seems like it's a horror comedy or like a very dark comedy.
Yeah.
About male friendship, which I think is a really interesting topic now.
Yeah.
Because everyone talks about like the male loneliness epidemic, which I think is a real problem.
Yeah, it is.
I think it would be interested to see how this movie handles it, because I haven't really seen a lot of movies handle it yet. So I'm curious about that one.
I don't know if I should comment on the whole male loneliness thing, but the one thing I want to say about that is
we can get into it if you want, for sure.
Yeah, one thing I want to say about that is like, I feel like that's more of I'm not saying it's not a thing. It's absolutely a thing. I see people that I know, they're going through it, right? And it's like, I feel like that's more of more of a mindset than an actual thing, right? Loneliness is a thing, and I think a lot of people haven't truly experienced that in a way that's like people actually experiencing that, because there were times in my life where like I didn't have that many friends, and I experienced loneliness, but it wasn't true loneliness, right? I always have my parents, always have my family members. They're always there for me, which I always thank them for that, because there are people that I see and they don't have that family support and they're essentially left on their own, right? And I just feel like, it's kind of sort of corroborates with the sort of media gaze where like you watch these things in movies and shows and cartoons and even in music, and you try to look for that sort of idealized version of someone you want to be with or someone you want to be friends with, and you don't find it, and the sort of like status type of thing where like people are sort of ranking women out of 10, she's a 9, she's a 7, she's a this, and I'm like, what? Like, that to me kind of like does not make any sense.
Yeah. Well, just to comment on, I'll comment on the loneliness thing in a second, but just to comment on the last thing you said about rating women out of 10, like. I was out the other night, and this dude asked me, we were talking for a while, and he was like, oh, so, like, do you have a girlfriend or anything? I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, like, what would you rate her out of 10? I was like, what the fuck? Like, why are you asking me what, but I just met you, dude. Like, you're going to ask me to put the woman I love on a scale of 1 to 10, just so you can make an assessment of me, of my sexual conquest as a dude. I was like, yo, go fuck yourself. I mean, I didn't tell him to go fuck off, but I was like, I don't really do that,
Yeah.
But anyway, to comment on the male loneliness epidemic thing, I think a lot of it stems from, especially if you're going to compare male friendships to female friendships, like I'm sure it's a thing that gets made fun of a lot. Hassan Minaj has like a pretty funny bit about it on one of the late night talk shows where he's like, if you scroll down any woman's Instagram comments, you see like anytime she posts anything, it's like, oh my god, like gorgeous, amazing, you're so perfect, blah blah blah. And basically every woman that has a lot of friends, you can scroll down their Instagram posts and see that.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, if a dude posts a picture on Instagram, if they're lucky enough to even have a lot of friends, they're either not going to have comments or comments just being like, yo, you suck, like ironically or whatever.
Fire emoji, goat emoji.
Just stuff like that. It's a different vibe. It's a different tone of the way men support each other, if they even do. I think it's for whatever reason, as our lives get more insular and we all start to live online and stuff. I think men especially, we're kind of like starving for physical face-to-face connection with our friends. But we like it's like a muscle you have to flex, you know? Like if you spend too much time alone, then it's difficult to go out there in the real world and actually spend quality time with friends in your life. And for whatever reason, it seems much easier for women to keep up with this. Like men don't really have that. They're not flexing that muscle.
They're not.
And large, I have friends that I see sometimes, but definitely I feel like it's closely correlated with how much time I spend at home, like watching TV or doing my videos or whatever it is. Just being online and being at home. The longer I do that, the less I want to go out. Because it's like you almost trick yourself into thinking that you are getting social interaction, even though you're kind of not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, you can't force social interaction. You got to actually go out there and make it happen. And that's one of the reasons why I love Casey Neistat, the OG vlogger. You heard of him?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. He goes out there and he genuinely actually has thoughtful discussions with other people. He's not just talking to you through a camera, right? And that's the thing, like, what most sort of content curators forget is, like, you could talk to other people too, right? It's not just you. And I understand, like, being singular is important, but, like, collaboration is always gonna happen, right? It's just that, you're not the main character of a movie. You're just one person in a melting pot of a billion other pieces, right? Right? So,
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say main character because I feel like that has become such a meme now. Like the main character energy, like that's what everyone strives to have, I think, in the 2020s, like developing your aura or your riz or whatever the fuck, like these things that make you feel like you are the main character. In this huge sea of other people who are also trying to be the main character. But the thing is, like, not everybody is, and some people are great. Some in a movie you need supporting characters too, and in a society you need those people to make things work. So I think what not to like prescribe a solution for everything, but like or for society or cultural ills or whatever. But like I feel like people should be okay with being like, I'm not the main character, and that's actually better because it's like that means I can support the people in my life that I love, and I can live a life that's not so selfishly focused. I mean, I know this is kind of rich coming from a YouTuber who is, trying to be the main character. Because anyone with the YouTube channel, is trying to be that to one degree or another. So I get that. I'm guilty of it myself, but I think like we could all learn a little bit and maybe heal a little bit from not trying to be the main character all the time. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I really, really like what you said. So who do you think is the best actor/actress right now, and why?
I mean, I've always been a big Joaquin Phoenix fan. From the first time I saw him as a kid. I think he's had a lot of incredible performances, but I think the world really finally accepted him as one of the best, if not the very best actor in Hollywood after the his performance in 2019 Joker.
Yes.
Which was just so incredible.
Yeah.
Even though, I think Joker is a really good movie.
Yeah.
I don't think I think his performance is the best thing about the movie.
Yeah.
But I do love that movie. I love his performance in it, and I don't know if I've ever seen an actor that consistently is able to make me feel so many different things just through like expressions on their face.
Yeah.
And, line. Like he really is just he's a generational talent. I think he's the best working right now.
For sure. My favorite, he's in the 70s, but my favorite is always going to be Denzel Washington, man. He is.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man. I was rewatching Training Day, and I was like, he so deserved that Oscar, man. It irks me when I hear, he got it as a career achievement. I'm like, dude, that was the best performance that year, without question. It's just it's in a movie that's not that good, but like,
it's such a good movie too. It like I love the scene where he's just like trying to get Ethan Hawke to smoke crack.
Yeah.
in the car, like, oh, that movie is so good. I totally agree with you, man. Denzel rules.
Yeah, even in he has a trait that I think most people in life should have is go 110% at whatever you do. He never half-asses anything. Like, he could be in the worst movie, but I bet you he's the best part of that movie, and you can watch that movie and again just to see him do his thing. I mean, The Equalizer is Equalizer is probably the best example of that, because those movies fundamentally are just okay. But, like, the first two are, like, every line he says is quotable.
Mm.
Especially the second one. Like, remember that scene where, like, he's talking to Pedro Pascal? And it's like you're seeing two, like, giants at what they do just go at it. It's that's cinema to me, man.
Yeah, that's my favorite type. That's my favorite feeling to have when I'm in. Like, did you see the Irishman?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, that I when you said like two masters going at work like that, I felt that exact way in the scene when it's De Niro, Pacino, and sorry I forget his name, but he's an incredible actor too. The guy who plays Tony Pro in that movie.
Joe Pesci.
They're just sitting at they're sitting at a table, just arguing about being 10 minutes late, and it's like the most riveting scene ever. You know, it's just like it's so awesome.
It's
because,
also
like, it goes to show you that like you can have, you know, the dialogue is good, but they're literally just talking about wearing how it's disrespectful to wear shorts and being 10 minutes late. Wearing shorts to a meeting. And it's just such an incredible scene, and it's because of the performers. You know, like, great acting. You know, actors make a lot of money because they're really, really good at what they do.
Yeah.
You know? And people go out to see movies. I mean, I would bet that, you know, Martin Scorsese's a huge actor. Like, these James Gunn, Christopher Nolan, like, some people that are into film go out to see movies because of the director.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of the general audience, they go out to movies to see the actors.
Yeah.
You know, they want to see their favorite actor doing a new role.
Yeah.
That's like when I talk to my mom about movies, she's like, "Oh, it has, you know, there's a lot of great people in it. I want to go see this movie." And I think that's the way that most people think about it, and they're right to do so, because acting is it's not the most important. You know, there are a million different things that make a film work, but like acting is what creates the emotional connection.
It does.
The writing is incredibly important too, but at the end of the day, it's words on a page. Like, you have to rely on the actor to make those words come to life and to make them into, a beautiful flow that the viewer can really connect with emotionally.
You know, it's funny you say that, is because that's kind of one of the reasons why I don't the reason why I kind of despise Adriano's acting style, because it's like,
why is that?
Because it's funny, because, like, because I don't know why I did this. I had too much time on my hands. But I said, you know what, let me watch every film that she's been in. I said to myself, and I'm like, okay, I'll try. I tried. I genuinely could not finish most of her films. It is that bad, and it's like it's not even big stuff. It's little stuff. It's like her accent control is atrocious, and it's and even like the emotional stuff is like she completely loses me in Blonde. Like Blonde is to me the worst movie of the 2020s. It's not even close. It's so cynical, it's so nihilistic, and it's so negative for no good reason. This is Marilyn freaking Monroe. This isn't Batman. This isn't Saddam Hussein. Like this isn't like, and it's like the worst part about that to me. It's just that she's not even trying. Even her best roles, when she's trying, she's just okay. She's okay, whatever. Right? Like in Knives Out, she was okay. They could have got anyone else for that role. They would have done like 100 times better job. They were in 2049. She was just a hologram. So like, okay, whatever. But she didn't ruin the movie.
That's where you get away with acting like a robot.
Yeah.
If you're a hologram.
Right? It's like...
But, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I agree with you. She's definitely not a good actor, I don't think. I think it's just the fact that she's really, like, exceptionally otherworldly beautiful, you know, that people put her in movies. I was
do you feel like that?
I wanted to... Wait, what?
Do you feel like she has the otherworldliness that people keep talking about? Or are you just saying that because you saw that online or whatever?
No, I mean, I think she's incredibly beautiful. I mean, I wouldn't say that she, you know, usually when you say maybe otherworldly isn't the best adjective.
Yeah.
When I think about that, I think about, like, actors like, you know, Cate Blanchett when she was younger.
Yeah.
Or, what's her name? Like, Anya Taylor-Joy, who just have these, like, really striking, unique faces.
Yeah.
And, Ana de Armas is more, like, she's more of a conventionally beautiful person, but I mean, in terms of conventionally beautiful people, she's, like, right up there at the top. Like, her, you know, I think she's a really, really gorgeous woman. But, I was just, like, trying to think about what, like, how important do you think it is for actors to be attractive? Like, when you're trying to put yourself in the position of a casting director, like, say you saw two people trying out for the same role.
Yeah.
One guy is perfect for the role, but he's, you know, not ugly, but he's just like a normal looking guy. And then the next guy is like, you know, he's still pretty good, but he's extremely attractive. Like,
you know, it's funny you say that.
The casting director, like 9 times out of 10, is going to go for the attractive guy over the better guy?
I feel like what you said is kind of the discourse around picking the new Batman for like James Gunn DCU. It's like everybody just be throwing names out, and I'm looking at them like, really? Like, and then someone mentioned I think Jake Gyllenhaal. I know he was Mysterio, but I was like, you know, that would work, right? Obviously, he's a good-looking guy. As a straight guy, he's a good-looking guy. But, like, he's not like, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean, right? He's not like Alan Richardson, right? Everybody's gushing over him. He was great in Reacher, by the way. Shout out to him. But, like, it's kind of like sort of trying to thread a needle through a haystack type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, with fan casts and stuff like that, it's kind of funny that, like, we saw all this play out in the second Doctor Strange movie. Like, fan casts, it works great for somebody who's really good at editing, you know, Photoshop. They could put John Krasinski's head onto Reed Richards' body and make you feel like, holy shit, like, this guy was born to play Reed Richards.
Yeah.
And then when you see him in the movie, it's like, was he? Not really. And it's like, I feel like this is kind of always the issue with fan castings. Like, fans think they know what they want, you know, but really you have to put your faith in someone like James Gunn, who's a proven creative person that is really good at planning things ahead. And, you know, what he did with the Guardians franchise and even a lot of his other work. Yeah. He's proven that he can give audiences what they didn't even know they wanted, and it's better than the thing they thought they wanted. You know, that's the mark of a truly great creative mind in film, I think.
It's kind of like that line Do you listen to Kanye by any chance? I know he's been controversial.
Yeah, dude, I've been really depressed about everything that's going on. For the past couple of years, I've been really upset about his behavior. But I still think his music is incredible. I think he's a genius artist, or at least he was. I didn't really like Vultures. I didn't really like Vultures that much, that's for sure. But
What's your
favorite
favorite?
question? Yeah, I know Kanye. What were you gonna say?
What's your favorite record from him, album wise?
Favorite record. I mean, I usually say Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy because I probably return to it the most.
Yeah.
But then as kind of like a sleeper pick, I really also like Life of Pablo.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a ton of songs on that record that I listen to a lot.
Yeah.
Like I go back to like Real Friends and FML and songs like that all the time too.
It's funny.
Between those two.
Yeah. My favorite Kanye record easily is Jesus. That's the record that got me into hip hop fully, which is weird, right? Because when I was younger,
it's such an experimental hip hop album.
It is, but there's a line that he'd sampled this gospel track on site, and essentially said he give us. I think it goes like give us what he needs.
Give us what we need.
Yeah.
May not be what we want. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that. It's like that. It's like that's that. And also another thing I want to sort of bring up, because you mentioned obviously, I feel like Anna gets a longer leash than other beautiful people considered by the internet. Don't you feel that? Like whatever Sydney Sweeney or Alexa Demie or something like that, whatever their stuff underperforms, it's like, they're just a pretty face. They're never that good. Well, if honest, oh my god, anything she's in, I'm in as well. I'm like, what?
Yeah, maybe. I haven't personally noticed that, but I mean, I don't even know if I should say this take publicly, but it's something I've been thinking about a lot. Is someone like Sydney Sweeney to me?
Yeah.
I don't want to sit here and like judge people's attractiveness or whatever, but like I feel like in terms of all the beautiful women out there, it doesn't make sense, especially all the beautiful women, Gen Z women, in their late 20s or whatever.
Yeah.
It's really weird to me that Sydney Sweeney, of all people, has become like the sex symbol of the Gen Z generation.
But it makes sense.
Because like,
it makes sense.
It makes
but
sense.
Like, I
understand
where you're coming from.
She's very sexy. Like she's got a great body and everything. But if we're gonna compare it the way she like just facially to her to I don't know, Ana de Armas, for example, like Sydney Sweeney just looks like some girl you would meet at a bar. I feel like,
But
I mean, maybe that's why people like her. I don't know.
I understand where you're coming from, and maybe that's her appeal. Like she's not this otherworldly thing. That she looks like someone you would meet, and that's sort of the down to earth, next door type of thing is what people want. That's why everyone loved Jennifer Lawrence when she came out. I mean, when she started sort of speaking out about her own thing, everyone went after her. So it's kind of like sort of tipping the scales in that sort of aspect of it.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I think that is true. And sometimes with celebrities like Angelina Jolie, for example.
Yeah.
She's someone that she looks too much like someone you would never even meet anywhere, and that makes it hard for you to be like, oh, you don't even register them as like a real person.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes it difficult for you to be like, wow, they're really beautiful. It's almost like you're looking at like an art piece.
You know what?
That's
actually that's actually a good point. I don't know if I should say this take a lot, but I used to do this. I don't know if I still do this, but like whenever I had time, at school or whatever. Like I would like usually this could sound so weird. Like I would listen to Jesus, and I would listen to specifically I'm a God, and I look at pictures of like scary images, like witches and all that stuff. And I don't know why it kind of disarmed it. Because when I was younger, I used to be terrified of that stuff. Now I can look at it and I I could just look at it for what it is, right? And
so you're saying you feel like listening to that music that made you feel confident, it was like, oh, this isn't shit I need to be scared of?
yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's weird because, like, I feel like with Angelique, I feel like with her career, when you look at it from a distance, it's so weird. It's like she wins an Oscar. She's still very good. But, like, everybody talks about the stuff that's not acting. Like, she can act. But, like, everybody else would rather talk about her fallout with Brad Pitt or her sting with Bob Doran, shout out to him. But, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's definitely a thing that happens with celebrity culture where it's like their lore or whatever it kind of outshines their creative output. I mean, Kanye is like a perfect example of this, especially now in his later career where no one is talking about his music.
Yeah.
You know? His music isn't even a factor anymore. It's just the fact that he's like, for the past 3 or 4 years or whatever, basically since a couple months after Donda dropped, he's just been on like a fucking wrecking tour of his own legacy. Like he will stop at nothing to make sure that every person in the world thinks he was little more than a psychotic asshole by the time he dies, and it's just so sad to me.
Yeah,
you know, like I was watching one of the interviews he did. It was right after Yeezus dropped. He did an interview with Zane Lowe from Apple Music, and he's talking about how, you know, if you're a fan of Kanye West music, you're not a fan of me. You're a fan of yourself. And I was like, damn, dude. Like I remember when I first heard that, it was so powerful to me because, the little story you just shared about, you know, you listening to I Am a God and like things that you were afraid of, not really feeling so scary anymore. Like that's Kanye's music did that for millions of people. Yeah. And he inspired confidence, and, you know, he was always a cocky douche in a lot of ways, but like he gave people something to aspire to. And he was an inspiring person in a lot of ways. And now just to see how far he's fallen, it's just like, it really is so sad.
It's,
I'm not even like mad about it anymore. I just look at it and I'm just like, dude, please, like, get some help, you know?
Put the phone down, man. It's funny. It's interesting you say that because I proposed this hypothesis on Hip Hop Heads. I don't know if you're on that. Are you on that?
I go on it sometimes, yeah. Okay.
I proposed this on the daily discussion thread. If Kendrick Lamar got exposed for something, I don't know if it's like he harmed somebody or he stole some money or something like that, how long would it take for people to say, you know what, he was never that good to begin with? Or would people just keep defending him until something so horrendous, like that video that Diddy was beating up Cassie or whatever, comes out? And I got some very interesting responses. I'm like, interesting.
Yeah, what were people saying?
People were saying, like, and it's so funny, someone made this comment. It is like, it's all be like, I think someone said, like, all be like exactly like Kanye. She was talking about, what about the context? He didn't really mean to say that. He meant this. And then after a long while, like, okay, this guy was always a bad person. Which, I mean, look what's happened to Jay-Z. Like, I remember when younger, Jay-Z was looked at as this untouchable figure. And now, even though he hasn't dropped a record since 2017, some person that was associated to him, there's always a couple people, keep trying to tear him down. It's so interesting to look at, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's hard with hip hop, I think, specifically, because hip hop and I guess even R&B, if we're gonna like rope R. Kelly and Michael Jackson into it, like everybody knew about R. Kelly being a sicko, for a long time. And same thing with Michael Jackson, but like people still defend him, and I think they're for whatever reason, like, given a little bit more leeway by the fans than, say, like, pop musicians.
Yeah.
Like, say, imagine Sabrina Carpenter or Harry Styles did something like that. Like, I'm pretty sure the fans would turn on him real quick.
Yeah.
But hip-hop fans, I guess maybe it's just, like, a little bit of a rougher genre or something. I don't really know. Like, the fans are more willing to accept, bad behavior because that's kind of, like, that's the aesthetic. Like, rappers rap about doing bad things, so are you really surprised if they actually do them? Maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
I feel like, the reason why, like, I don't know, I'm gonna talk like FD Simplifier a little bit, but
go ahead.
But hip hop is one of those sort of things where, like, when it started out, it was like the very, like, fundamentally, it was like poetry but on a beat, essentially, right? Like Rakim and guys like KRS-One and Gil Scott-Heron, and even in the 70s, 60s, he was doing this similar stuff that people are doing now. And now it's advanced to this sort of ever-encompassing sort of institution and of music and creativity. And it's not as manufactured originally, right? So you look at pop, right? You hear these stories where they sign these people to, like, talent agencies, and they determine their sound. They got other people writing for them. They determine the whole aesthetic, and it's like, if you look past that, if you're willing to look past that, I think you're gonna have a lot of fun. But if that does not vibe with you, then hip hop would be like the total opposite, where the people are coming in and they are who they are, for good and bad. That's why people are willing to defend that, because they could say, well, they're not at least controlled as other people in other genres, right?
Yeah. Yeah, talking about hip hop becoming an institution. I mean, it goes back to what Kanye was always saying this, like, back in the early 2010s. He's like, rappers are the new rock stars now.
Yeah.
Like, in the 70s, you had actual rock musicians being the rock stars. But like, now it's like rappers become bigger than almost anybody.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat pop musicians, but, like, you look at people like Kendrick and Drake. Like, Kendrick beat the Spotify monthly listener record for a rap artist by, like, reaching 100 million. Or I think if he didn't make it to 100 yet, he's, like, very close.
Yeah.
After the Super Bowl performance, but, like, even that still, like, you still have a couple pop stars ahead of him. But like, my point is, like, where's the closest rock musician? Like, probably way, way down the line. Like, rock as a genre is kind of, seen its day. Like, people still listen to rock, but it's not the most impactful genre anymore.
Yeah.
And that's kind of taken up by rap now, I think. Which is why it's so funny to see these people's, conservative, not necessarily just conservatives, but, like, a lot of people who, I guess, aren't exposed to a lot of hip hop. We're just like, what the hell is going on during Kendrick's halftime show? I thought it was awesome. But, like, those people, like, there was so many takes, like, what are we even watching? It's like, I couldn't even believe that, considering how big rap has become. I mean,
it didn't help that the actual game itself was literally a formality. Like, I was shocked at that game when I was watching. I'm like, when I saw Mahomes through that pick six, I'm like, no way this is actually happening. Like, and
I had to work through the game. I didn't even watch it. To see the Kendrick performance, but I couldn't actually watch the game.
Yeah. So, like, the game being a blowout doesn't help its cause, but I feel like what I realized is that, like, greatness, people will always talk about, like, appreciating greatness and all that stuff, but the next thing you know, they'll turn on and they'll try to tear down the next person at the top, right? And the other thing I want to sort of mention is that, think about, like, sort of the biggest actor ever, I don't know, Tom Cruise or something like that. The amount of times I've seen people try to tear him down. And I get it because of Scientology and all that stuff. Is like, it's crazy. And, you know, it's the other thing is that at some point, I would rather appreciate something historic than try to tear it down just because I don't like that person or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally feel you on that. I've always been a celebrator of greatness wherever I see it. You know, like anyone who achieves the heights of what they're trying to do in any field, or I mean, you know, I guess Elon Musk is a big exception to that. Yes. I think that guy sucks.
Yeah, I know.
But you know, I guess he did achieve greatness. Whatever. I guess he sold his soul to do it and became a total asshole. But whatever. You know, I'm more talking about in the arts and where it doesn't have like a horrible impact on people's lives. Like I wouldn't say necessarily feel the same about the business world, but whatever. I'm talking about, you know, artists and sports people like LeBron James, Michael Jordan. Seeing these people that are inspirational figures. I've never been somebody who wants to tear down somebody just because they're at the top. You know. Like, I like to see Drake fall because I feel like he deserved it. I mean, just hearing the stories about what Drake would do to people in his crew, like just hooking up with his friends' girlfriends all the time just because he could. Like, that's such scum behavior, you know, to be at people. You know what I mean? Like, just because you're famous and you're rich and you think you could get your friend's girlfriend to hook up with you, it's just like, dude, what are you doing? You know, like, I mean, we don't have to get into that, but like that kind of stuff makes me want to see somebody fall. It's that more than them just being great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the thing that is interesting is like, again, like I'll use the Mahomes example. It's so weird, like, seeing the Chiefs lose the way they lose, and I'm going online. I should have never done this. I go online and it's like, oh, it's over, it's done. He was never like. It was so weird because like it felt like everybody was celebrating the Chiefs failing than the Eagles winning. Because a couple days afterwards, it's like they're getting mad at people saying, man, maybe Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. I'm like, what? Like, it's just, come on, man.
Yeah, I don't appreciate that, especially because it's like the only person that you can really compare Mahomes to, that like the only person in NFL history at this point that's his peer is Tom Brady.
Yeah,
and I mean Tom Brady lost Super Bowls, so it's like why can't Mahomes do it too and still be considered like highly in the GOAT conversation, you know?
It's so weird because like
they're just so reactive, you know? Like
it is reactive.
They'll just be like, "Oh shit! Oh, I guess it's done now because he failed one time." It's like, come on.
It's so weird too. Like I'm seeing Bills and Bengals and Ravens fans piling on. I'm like the Chiefs were so fraudulent supposedly, yet you couldn't beat them. Like if they're fraudulent, what does that make you guys? Trash? Garbage? You guys wouldn't like that.
I'm sorry, man. I gotta start wrapping it up just because I gotta get going to work soon. But.
All right. So so I'll wrap it up. So I'll do some rapid fire questions.
Yeah, sure.
Who was your celebrity crush when you were growing up?
When I was growing up, my first celebrity crush was Jennifer Garner.
Oh.
After seeing Daredevil.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah.
What was your favorite album of last year?
Favorite album of last year. The new Vampire Weekend.
Oh, that's a good one.
Was really good for me.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
And last question is, how do you deal with like criticism, since in terms of like people like criticizing your work or contemporaries or whatever?
Yeah, dealing with criticism, it's interesting on YouTube because if you have a video that gets big, you end up seeing the same criticisms a lot.
Yeah.
Like you'll if you make a mistake in a video,
Yeah.
you'll get if the video gets more than 50,000 views or whatever,
Yeah.
you're gonna see a lot of comments that are pointing it out because people love to point out a mistake in the comment section. So I think it's like being a skill that you need to develop as a YouTuber or a content creator or whatever is to be able to weed out like genuine criticisms from people that are just being assholes, like it's a common thing to be like, oh, F the haters, whatever, like I don't care, like I love my haters, like all that stuff. But like sometimes people do have valid things to say that you should take into account if you want to get really good at this thing. And I think being able to differentiate between the comments that are just saying something to be mean or just because they're bored or whatever and they want to make a hate comment or somebody who has thoughtful critiques that actually might be helpful for you to keep in mind in the future. That's a really important skill to have. But in terms of not letting hate comments get the better of you, when I first started getting hate comments, I was like, "Oh, this sucks," But like, you grow a thicker skin as you continue doing it, and you learn to see like, I mean, people are hating it. Some people are hating it, but at least they're watching it. Like some people don't have any comments, so like you have to learn to even like be gracious for the hate comments because that means you are doing something right. If there are enough people to see it and hate it, not everyone's gonna love it, and you got to accept that. So if they're hating it, at least they're watching it. That's kind of like a positive outlook on it.
So last thing I want to mention for like wrapping up actually is like I use one person for example. I use Millie Bobby Brown because like ever since she like blew up after the first season of Stranger Things, it's like everybody was rooting for her, and then all of a sudden 2-3 years later, everybody, I swear, like anytime I go on like a movie thread or a movie critic thread or something like that, everybody is hating on her. And I'm like, what? Like, she hasn't actually done anything. And then I realized, like, oh, like, he starts speaking out about certain things, certain topics. She's standing up for herself, right? She's not going to be bossed around or be looked at as sort of fetishized or whatever. And it kind of proves to me, like, whoever, like, is sort of themselves, they're going to be hated on than people who are going to allow their fans to, like, put them in a box or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I talk, like, if you're, with Millie Bobby Brown or anyone who decides to speak out on issues that are important to them, it's like, it's a double-edged sword. There's risk involved with it, but I, like, personally, at this point in my, career, or if you can call it that, as a content creator, I'm on the early stages of it still. I'm like a sub 10K channel. That I feel like I can speak my opinions freely. I honestly hope that my opinions will help curate the kind of audience that I want to garner. You know what I mean? Like, I want my opinions to weed out people that if there are people that would rather be watching Critical Drinker instead of my channel, like, fine, go watch him. Like, I don't need those people.
Okay.
I want to have an audience full of people that are going to like my content and not have an echo chamber at all, but like to make an audience that has similar values to me is a goal of mine. So I feel like it's something that I would definitely not shy away from. In the future, like I've made it public multiple times throughout my YouTube videos that I don't like Trump, so like, if people, I not that I won't let Trump supporters in my community or whatever, but I'm just saying. I'm kind of rambling at this point. You go ahead.
I know. It's been an honor interviewing you. When I first messaged you, I didn't think you would like look at my channel, and I actually said yes. But I really appreciate you coming out, you showing out, having a real conversation, unfiltered, no editing, all that stuff. So yeah, I really, really, really appreciated you coming on and doing your thing. So yeah.
Yeah, no, of course, in closing, I'd just like to say I checked out some of your podcasts, and I was like, dude, this guy's really cool. Like,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed talking to him. So,
Yeah.
I had a great time. It was really fun. And we could do this down the line sometime if you want to do it again.
Yeah.
Just hit me up.
Okay. See you, man.
Yeah, peace, dude.
Peace. And that is the latest episode of Renegade Podcast with StopCulture. And I hope you guys enjoyed this one. And yeah, go check out the channel on YouTube, comment, whatever. I really appreciate it. Bye.